Shalom, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Theology in Under 10, a Bible study for busy people. This is Bible study for people who don't have a lot of time. Every episode is under 10 minutes. If you want to study theology, but you don't have a lot of time, this is the podcast for you. I want to start this podcast by reading Jeremiah 29, which is a letter to the exiles. And I want to start at verse 4, which says, "This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says to all those I carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and settle down. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Marry, have sons and daughters. Find wives for your sons. Give your daughters in marriage, so they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in number there. Do not decrease. Also, seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper." I want to focus for a moment on verse 7, which says, "Also seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I've carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper." So the Israelites have been taken into exile. They were in foreign territory because they had sinned against God, and the result was exile. But God tells them, while you're here in that place, that is temporary, not your home. It's temporary. I want you to become peaceful in the work of peace, because as it prospers, you're going to prosper too. I know what it feels like to be somewhere you don't want to be around people who don't agree with you. Maybe there are stark ideological, religious differences in values. I live in a place like that right now. I love the people here, but there is so much demonic activity in my state. And it's just there's a lack of moral compass here. The people here are sometimes even hostile to religion. And to my knowledge, I live in the most unchurched region in the United States. Many of you guys already know where I live and where I'm talking about. But here I am. And there are days I'm like, Lord, you brought me here. You brought me here to pray. You brought me here to be a light in this dark place. It is dark here. Not just like spiritually dark, but also sometimes physically dark because we don't get sun. And many of you can relate because you're somewhere you don't necessarily want to be. Maybe you're in a job you don't want to be in, or a neighborhood you don't particularly like, or God help us, in a family that is toxic and driving you crazy. But pray. Pray for the peace in that job. Pray for the peace in that family and that neighborhood, because that's what we're called to do. We're called to intercede in the spaces that we're in. And before God tells them to become peacemakers in their place of exile, he says, live in it, make it your home. Don't treat it like you're just passing through and trying to get out, because he's teaching them contentment. God is teaching them to operate in excellence wherever they are, to be productive, even when productivity feels hopeless. There's a saying that fits well for this passage, and it's bloom where you're planted. People who move around a lot know the importance of blooming where you're planted. You move from a place to place, there's a part of you that might feel afraid to get too comfortable and settle in because you don't want to plant a rose garden because you know you're leaving in 6 months or a year. But when you bloom where you're planted, you make a conscious decision not to put your life on hold. And that's what I want to tell you in this episode. Don't put your life on hold. And there's another comforting message that Jeremiah gave to the people from the Lord. Verse 11 says, "This is what the Lord says. You will be in Babylon for 70 years. But then I will come and do for you all the good things I have promised, and I will bring you home again." You know, trouble doesn't last always. There's always hope. When you put your trust in God, he will bring you through and bring you out of the exile that you're in. It wasn't going to happen overnight, but they had a promise that it would happen, and God fulfills his promises. He is a promise keeper. You can trust him. So I said all that to say this. Jeremiah 29:7 is a reminder to pray for the place that you're in, even if you don't like it. It's also a reminder to be content with what you have, and it's also a reminder to not put your life on hold. God bless you. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If this podcast is helping you, subscribe, share with someone you think might be helped by this message. I love you all. Have a great week.